Hey, Paul.
Well, Gene, it's good to be together with you again, and with Redmond.
We are in Redmond, but first of all, we're in a place that few mortals have actually seen. It's your lair. It is your basement in which you have spent the last 30 years, probably a large portion of your life.
Maybe we should go upstairs rather than reveal any of this mess.
I won't pan anywhere.
Let me introduce the mess. Are you going to pan?
If you want, I can pan.
My dad had a messy basement. This commemorates his basement.
So this is an homage basement.
Yeah, it's an homage, to my dad, And his name was Theodore Redmond Dorpat.
Really?
Reverend Theodore Redmond Dorpat. Big bass voice. Impressive preacher, really. He didn't necessarily have much to say, but he said it very well. A good guy. He would like good sense of humor. He liked to play.
And interestingly, his middle name was Redmond.
No, it was Erdmond, but we could change it for this to Redmond. Yeah, my dad's name was Theodore Redmond Dorpat.
Okay.
Well, let's start out with a picture of the railway station, because you went with our consultants, our informers. Well, this first one is actually an earlier picture, very early. The Seattle Lakeshore and Eastern got to Redmond. I'm a little confused on this. They started building it from downtown Seattle in 1887, and it was in Redmond by 88. So when they actually built this, I think was in 88. So this picture is from 88, 89. Very early picture of the Redmond Depot. And the significant thing is that they built it to size and to stay. I mean, they were committed to Redmond, which was then practically just a couple of farms. Redmond wasn't really incorporated, until 1912. Maybe we'll get to that later, but we won't, because we want to get through in 10 minutes. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's do the next one of the other picture of in fact, one of those people on there. Do you know which one it is?
Well, I think it's the foremost woman standing center of the photo on the platform there. That's
foremost.
Well, she's
you mean,
closest
I
to
see,
us.
the farthest to the right. Yeah, the woman in the white apron on the far right. And that's a later view of the... and that is who? That's Emma. That
may well be, as Tom Hisroth thinks, that may be Emma McRedmond.
McRedmond. Why do you say McRedmond?
Oh, because the name of the family was McRedmond, and I have no idea why they dropped the Mc. Were they the immigrant population that was despised by...
Well, it would have been even more attractive to Microsoft, because remember they had the Macs.
Yes, except Microsoft, of course, begins with Mc.
Yeah, no.
Microsoft.
It would have been, they could have done all sorts of things for labeling and marketing.
That's right. They could return it to McRedmond, which hosts Microsoft.
They could at least name one of their buildings the McRedmond building down there in their Redmond campus. Hear that, Microsoft? Take one of the big buildings and name it McRedmond. All right. Did you ever... never mind. Okay, let's see your contemporary photograph.
Okay, here's the contemporary.
Oh, yeah. There on the far right, that's Tom Hisroth, isn't it?
It is Tom Hisroth. Next to him is Sherry Stillen.
They were our principal tour guides, and they were our hosts. Well, Sherry was our host when we did a lecture together for the Historical Society there about maybe 3 months ago. Here's the Thomas Burke engine. That was one of the first engines on the Seattle Lakeshore and Eastern. So this was a regular visitor to Redmond after 1888. And we're going to see Burke again in this next shot, which is when they're building the railroad to Redmond and beyond, as far as they wanted to go all the way to Eastern Washington, but they only made it to the falls, to Snoqualmie Falls. No, they made it to the Canadian line too. But this is where they're building one of the bridges along the way. And there's Burke again. We can identify Burke, and he He's the little guy. See the little guy with a white hat on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a shorty.
He was a shorty, yeah. But he was so powerful that there's a book, a very good scholarly book called The Man Who Built Seattle. It was about him.
Well, the Burke family is another name to be reckoned
Yeah,
with.
it's the same family. Very good. Burke Museum, right? The Burke Building downtown, which was destroyed for the Jackson Federal Building. But
And the Burke-Gilman Trail.
Burke-Gilman Trail, right. And what is the Burke-Gilman Trail in relationship to this?
Well,
It's the same thing. It's where
the Lakeshore and Eastern
went. Yeah, all right. What's our next picture? Oh, this tells us another story about how you got to Redmond early on. You had the Seattle Lakeshore and Eastern Railroad very early, heck, 23 years before they even incorporated, and then you could go up the slough. And this happens to be the May Blossom, I think, was one of the slough steamers that came from Bothell, or actually this one it was built, I think, at Leschi, and came from there up to delivering people to Bothell. Bothell developed much more quickly than Redmond. That hill, by the way, on the other side of it, isn't that a beautiful picture?
That is a lovely
With the cow, it's bucolic, and part of the vessel is hidden behind a tree, and then there's that lovely sloping pasture behind it with the farmhouse. Yeah, that was the Pearson's farm. It was a Swedish family, that unfortunately had their hill named Norway Hill.
Did they know it was named Norway Hill?
No, that happened later, I think.
But a Swedish family...
That was their farm right there. Yeah.
You know, a lot of... well, I'm not going to get into it, but
Get into it. I like it when you get into it.
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, some of the great conflicts in my life are due to the fact that my mother was mostly Swedish and my father mostly Norwegian, and I think that I've always felt that split. So I understand that if I were a Swede at the bottom of a hill named Norway Hill, I'd feel under siege.
I'd feel like you were getting feisty and fighty.
I'd feel fighty. Yeah.
Okay. The next shot shows the same boat, right? Only now you can see it's got its stack is down, and that's because they had a hinge on it. So when the boat went under the railroad trestle, Seattle Lakeshore and Eastern, they had to turn that stack down, and it's kind of a famous novelty about that vessel, that the stack could go down. Anyway, it was 20 miles originally going from Bothell to Redmond. 20 serpentine miles, a lot of circle bendings, hairpin turns.
From Redmond to Bothell?
Yeah. And so it was a long thing to get up there. And before you had steam-powered vessels like this, you had to use scows. In fact, the McRedmonds, it took many days for them to get from Lake Washington to their place at the south end of Lake Sammamish. Many, many days. And then they put a cow on their scow, too, as they went up there.
Huh.
That probably was in the 70s.
You sure it's the south end of Lake Sammamish is Redmond?
I mean the north end.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Right. That's my aphasia, or whatever you call that. Dyslexia? Yeah. It's not a good thing to have when you deal with geography. Oh, here is the first double-ended ferry, and it was run by King County. It was called the King County of Kent. Here it is in Kirkland. And we put this in there to show you the first way you could get your wagon at least to the trail that wound up at Redmond if you wanted to go from Seattle. This ferry only lasted for about 8 years. It wore out very quickly. And it's now buried under the old practice field of Seattle Seahawks in Houghton, which is part of Kirkland. This is even earlier. This is the Kirkland itself, a vessel that was built near Leschi and then delivered people all around the lake. This is from the late 1880s, early 1890s. So again, if you wanted to get to Redmond, the future Redmond, that's one way to go. And then 1911-12, they started to put in the road, the paved highway, actually, between the 4 miles or so between Kirkland and Redmond. Here they are working on it. But this is the picture of the week, right, Gene?
It is. We're at the bank now.
And we're looking west on Cleveland across Leary Way. And this is sort of the historical center of town. And the bank there was called the Bank of Redmond. What I'm thinking you should do to remember Tom Well, Tom wrote a nice letter to us with details about this and some other pictures that sort of relate to Pioneer Redmond. I think maybe you could read that. Here it is right here.
Okay.
You'd read that, okay?
All right, let's read Pioneer Redmond. The bank is the Redmond State Bank, writes Tom Hitzroth. It was incorporated July 28, 1911. The livery stable in the background was owned by Orson Wiley. His family lived on the upper floor, and the stable was on the lower floor. The hay barn is the structure between the livery stable and the Eagle Bar.
It's very low. You can see it in the picture, see?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you may want to point it out.
You can see that in the picture.
All right.
Are you getting this straight, Paul?
No, let's go. I interrupted. I wanted to be helpful. That's all.
Thank you. The Eagle Bar was also owned by Orson Wiley. He was one of the 3 one-eyed bartenders in town.
Whoa, wow. That's something. 3 one-eyed bartenders in one small town. It's enough for Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Or a Guinness Book of World Records.
Either one, maybe.
Yeah. The 3 bar owners with 3 eyes between them.
That's something. I know Brown, the mayor, for 30 years was one of them, by the way. He was one of the one eyes.
Really? Brown had a one-eyed... He was the one-eyed bartender?
One-eyed guy, yeah. Huh. Lost it in a lumbering accident.
Wow. Well, let's go on. Let's go on. The girls in the photograph, we know nothing about them, says Tom.
Should we just leave them there then at that, or do you want to?
Well, no. Let's finish up because he's heard rumors of who they are, and that one of them may be Orson Wiley's daughter. But
no, not Orson Wiley's daughter. Really?
Yeah, one of them may be Orson Wiley's daughter. But
yeah.
When that photo was taken, his daughter was no longer living, so it's doubtful. Now,
doubtful? I'd say it's certain. But wait a second.
Wait.
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
Tom, doesn't he lead? You told me he leads tours.
Ghost tours.
Ghost tours in Redmond.
He
Perhaps
does.
This indeterminacy between the living and the dead has something to do with the reluctance of his. Well, go ahead.
Well, he says that the identity of the young ladies can't be substantiated, but if indeed, and this is where it gets spooky, Paul, if one of them is Orson Wiley's daughter, we're looking at the picture of a ghost. Tom, that's for you.
That's great.
Yeah,
that really adds a kind of preternatural depth to this photo that didn't have it before.
It does.
And I hope the listeners appreciate it, because now it can be part of Redmond's ghost history, or potentially.
That's right. An actual photograph of a ghost. That we
have to move on.
We have to move on. Okay, next photo is of Redmond during its logging heydays, looking north on Leary Way. I'm still reading Tom's comments.
Very good.
Looking north on Leary Way on the 4th of July. Redmond, says Tom, was a rollicking town of 300 with saloons, hotels, dance halls, and eateries, and a number of one-eyed men. To the left, the Redmond Trading Company has replaced its original wood building with the first brick building in town. Upstairs...
That's quite impressive with those glass, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah,
it's quite impressive. So, here's a contemporary photo of it with the Matador Bar Restaurant on the first floor and offices above.
Oh, that's the Brown Building.
That's the Brown Building.
Yeah.
Upstairs was a dance hall and the red light district. The entire red light district was upstairs?
You know, we have to take that with a grain of... That's another ghost story. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that. In pioneer times, it's if you took all the buildings that are described as having prostitution, or even later, I mean, it's just like prolific. I mean, it's hard to believe, really. But I know Tom believes it. So.
Okay. Bill Brown would go on to be the mayor for 30 years. The town had only recently become a fourth-class town in order to tax its thriving saloons and finance a modern waterworks.
Yeah.
After the Hotel Walter was destroyed by fire in 1910. And you did a column on this.
I did.
And here it is.
You can look at there. It is. There it is. It's a lovely shot. You can see that building that's in the middle of the shot. Mm-hmm. That is Brown's earlier building, before he built the brick building. That was where he had his bar.
And perhaps his unsavory red light district.
I don't think he had a second floor there. No, that looks like to be just what do you think? It's 1 or 2 floors? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't tell. But what do you think about the uncanniness of this
Oh, you caught that? You mean of the burning hotel?
Yeah.
But I think that's a lovely, uncanny shot, and it meets our mysterious theme this afternoon, in that there's nobody there but one guy walking away from the fire. There's nothing there on the street.
Right.
It's got a beautiful, uncanny, surreal is maybe even a better, I think, surreal side to it.
Right.
But this one guy who seems to show no interest in it, walking, he's not running, he's walking. Anyway, well, we've had enough of that.
Yeah. Okay. Now this is interesting because it looks looks up Cleveland Street, doesn't it?
We're looking here east on Cleveland towards Leary, and Leary is up there on the other side of that tree, and behind the tree to the left of it is Brown's original bar, right? And it is 2 stories high. And again, it probably does have an avowed brothel up there, although I doubt it.
Well, let's look at it. Now, this is interesting. We did this article 10, 12 years ago now.
We did, yeah.
And I took the
there's the
contemporary
picture
shot.
you took then, yeah.
But
I like this picture.
in our recent trip,
Yeah.
I went back, and here's the photo that I took of it more recently.
That's marvelous, isn't it?
Well,
that's how that town has
developed and changed.
Yeah, but it's developed.
You can see the condos to the right, these
Yeah.
enormous condos
Yeah.
to the right.
And it was behind here where you did your acting a couple of 4 summers ago, directed a play in the city park.
No, I didn't direct it. I
You did
participated
something
in it.
like that. When I was up there looking at you, you were directing.
You know I'm going to cut this out.
Okay.
We can't. We're like 40 minutes in now.
All right.
All right, so... Ooh, look at this, Paul. It's another old article you wrote about Marimore.
This is well, it was called Willowmore by the Kleiss family, and they bought some acres right there on the slough, right just south of the town, and they built this mansion, and it's been a famous place ever since. It was the museum more recently for the historical group. It's used by the King County as a park now. Oh, here's an example of one of the several lumber mills that was on the lake. And this, of course, was the real source of wealth for the environs of Redmond for many decades. And some of those logs, Gene, would be sent to Lake Washington down the slough, and you see what a mess they made. Sometimes lumberjacks would just park them in the slough, and this became a point of irritation to anybody that wanted to get up the slough in a boat, and that included Willowmore's Kleiss. And he took the lumber mills to court, and he won. They had to stop blocking the slough. Well, Kleiss is a powerful guy. The Kleiss family still is very influential in Seattle, hoards much property.
Hoards?
Hordes of lots. How's that?
Are you saying that the enormously powerful Kleiss family are they're hoarders? They're hoarding property?
I'm afraid of him. I would never make that point. No, pardon me, Kleiss. No, I didn't say that. He's just interpreting it incorrectly. No, they own a lot of property. I know that. I could tell you stories, but it just wouldn't work here. Okay. Let's move on.
That's it. We've come to the end of
I
our...
might want to get a grant from the Kleiss Foundation someday.
They have their own foundation?
I don't know, really. I don't know.
Not after accusing them of hoarding land.
No, let's move off.
We're rambling a bit, Paul.
It's time to say goodbye, Gene, because we want to be known as sober, steadfast, and very straight. Bye-bye.